Oftentimes, imposter syndrome is a result of productivity or sense of self-worth being attached to what we're able to produce. And so when that is impacted in ways where we aren't able to produce as much as we used to, we start to doubt ourselves. We start to see ourselves as being incapable.
Welcome to the Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. My new best friend, Stevon, is with us today, and this is going to be exciting. Do you ever just wonder, you wake up with this full plate and you've got all these things to do and you get going in the morning and more stuff hits your plate and more stuff and things start falling off and you go, how am I going to do this all? Am I even capable? Why am I even doing this job when I cannot even keep my plate from things falling off of it? I think we call that a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? So how do we start integrating all these things into our lives and start being confident in who we are and what we can do? So Stevon's going to help us with that. And I'm super excited because I'm really good at overstuffing my plate and then going, oh, wait, what do I need to take off? I can't do all this. So we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. When we come back, Stevon, help us make sure we are doing the right things on our plate. We'll be right back.
Hey, since I rarely have openings in my coaching schedule, I have a new resource out there on my website. It is called the BFF Coaching Network. And I have offered a spot there for any coach that has been on the show to list their coaching. You can go out there, you can listen to their episodes, you can feel a little bit about them, and then choose a coach that will work for you. So LauraJaneLayton.com, the BFF Coaching Network.
Okay, this is fun. This is information that I could have used 20 years ago. When I just get to the office and didn't think I could really do it all. You just keep giving and giving and giving and giving. And what happened to Laura Jane? Where did she go? So help us bring ourselves back and it to be a part of our lives.
Oh, love that. Love that. So what you speak of is not uncommon. Our friend is struggling and dealing with a lot, not realizing that maybe the decrease in the amount of productivity or the quality of your accomplishment might be the result of actually taking on way too much. And so trying to reestablish or incorporate some of that compassion back into, hey, you're a human being. You've got a lot going on. You are taking care of family. You are taking care of, work. You are taking care of relationship. You're taking care of extended family. But in that, where is your ability to take care of yourself? And if you've left yourself out of that equation or off of your list of things to do, there's a matter of, time before you will run out of the energy and to be able to kind of keep moving forward in ways that you used to.
When I reflect back on those days, I call them my robot years. I come home plugged in and recharged and went back to do, and there was no taking care of yourself. There was no time to do anything. And I pretty much lost my identity. Like, who is, is this really what I even want to do? I loved my job because it made me feel successful. I loved my title. It made me feel like I could share this, And then I got to a point where I just put all that stuff to bed, How do we do that? How do we get past the everybody else thinks I'm cool because I have a title? Or when do I think I'm cool?
Yeah, that's like the quintessential experience of people struggling with imposter syndrome is that they are doing all of the things. They are, they may have the title, they may have the job, they are getting the accolades and praise from those around them. But for them, they are disconnected from that. And I think, the hard part is that when it's internal, it's real for us. And so we don't often question whether or not it's appropriate or accurate or valid. And so when you talk about that experience of just kind of eh, really moving forward in life and accomplishing a lot and still feeling like it doesn't matter, the first thing I kind of think is, well, what time did you spend acknowledging the good that you did? You got the title, you felt great about it, that started to disappear. But how often are you reminding yourself or even focusing on what's going well? People are praising what you're doing on a daily basis or very frequently. How often do you sit with that? My suspicion is that oftentimes we're looking to the next thing that we have to do on our to-do list. And our friend is constantly having things placed on their to-do list. So there's no time to reflect on the good. There's no time to reflect on the progress because there's always something new to be done.
Yeah, I didn't take the time to do any reflection. That there was none, and it wasn't until I started looking back at my day or writing down in the middle of the day, oh, this just went well. Oh, this just didn't go well. And then looking at those and reflecting on them and how did we get to that point? If it went unwell or if it went great, how did I get there so I can repeat it? And those are the magic moments.
It really is, right? Like I love that you're writing it down and taking time to kind of actually document it. That's one of the things I think is really helpful for people to do is to document their successes. I call it an acknowledgement journal, but really kind of an evidence journal or evidence sheet where you're writing down the good things that happen so that your brain doesn't dismiss that stuff and say, oh, it's unimportant information. You should just keep pushing on in life and, make sure we get everything checked off on this to-do list. What about the to-done list? What about all the stuff that you have finished, that you have accomplished? If you don't train your brain to recognize it and recognize its importance, then it will dismiss and, that information and say, it has no value here. And I'm saying, well, your self-worth is attached to all of that. So it has tons of value. And we've got to really be intentional about making sure that we focus on acknowledging that and making sure that we're attached to the things we're doing on a daily basis.
And I love the to-done list. So many times we only look at the to-do list and it's a never-ending thing. But and hopefully your to-done list is too, because we're going to keep adding to it.
Yeah.
But very seldom do we take the time to even acknowledge what we've done.
Mhm.
And to-done is so much fun to say. Ta-dun!
I like that. I like it. It's like a little jingle with it. Yeah.
But it just like when I'm writing a to-done list,
Mhm.
that noise is constantly in my head. It's just like a celebration of everything that goes on it.
Yeah.
And, even on weekends when I have a huge list to do, I start it with my to-dones.
Oh.
These are the things that I got done to get to where I'm at now. And then these are the things I'm going to do the rest of the day.
I love that phrasing. These are the things I've kind of already accomplished or gotten done. And then I get to do some more things. But you're starting with I'm accomplished. I am putting good things out there. I am moving forward in life. You've already created a narrative that says you're on the right track. So it makes it really difficult. Like you fortified your sense of self by doing it that way, by starting with the to done as opposed to the to do list. Because when we focus only on the to do list, the message our brains is getting is that we have a lot of work to do, that there's so much more, and that I haven't done this. This isn't finished. And that really impacts our sense of self. I liken it to kind of like movies a little bit in
Mm.
the way that, you can have a cliffhanger or a throw forward, I think is what it's called. A cliffhanger being that, say someone opens door and, there's their partner's outside the door and their partner is, kind of crying or something like that. Then and it fades to black. We don't know what happened next. right? And so we kind of get stuck on that. We can make up anything about what happened. Maybe they're here and they're going to break up with us, or, something bad happened to parent or whoever. But in a throw forward, there's a more information given. And I think people kind of live their lives in a way of where they're kind of leaving it as a cliffhanger and not telling the rest of the story. And so I think when you focus on your to-done list, you've told the second part of the story. Yes, you had this massive to-do list. Also, what did you do with all that stuff on there? And the to-done list is the rest of the story saying that, like, yeah, I finished this, I finished that, I finished this. I'm capable, I'm accomplishing things, I'm moving forward in life. That's important for you to remind yourself of.
Yeah, I used to hate to do dishes. That was like the thing I hated the worst. But when I started throwing a lot of dinner parties and stuff, it became my Zen moment
Mm.
where, everybody's gone. That huge task list you had going into this is done. And if something didn't get done, guess what? You still pulled that thing off successfully. And it was that moment of a lot of self-reflection. It's that I've got a blog on this one. It's the happy little messes.
Mhm.
It's when you've had company all week, for a week, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever the holiday is, and they leave and you have all these little fingerprints. And they're all the little messages of love and gratitude that family existed instead of like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they didn't put these cups away and they didn't do this and they." Those are messages of a family that was together. And, when we start looking at those things as the reminders,
Mhm.
you hating the task.
Yeah, that is a great reframe. And I think that's a really important skill set for, our friend to kind of get, is that the to-do list is long and people are constantly coming to you to ask for help or wanting more from you because what you've done in the past is shown yourself to be capable, reliable, responsible, consistent. So it's the balance between doing a good job and then being rewarded with more work. Uh,
Yes, no
you know,
kidding.
it's like, yeah, I don't want all this responsibility. Then be bad at what you do. Like, be none of the things that you've set yourself up to be. And so when you've done that and become that in people's lives, they lean on you more. And I think that sometimes people have to get to a place of where they are okay recognizing that they can't be everything to all people, and that making sure their needs are met is just as important as meeting the needs of other people. And oftentimes with, high achievers or high responsibility people, they are used to doing for, and it's for everyone else, but not for themselves.
Right. Even if you are still in that state, you can find those moments of joy, those things that give you that peace that my life is worth being. And it's finding those things. And, if you get the opportunity, if you can't find anything nice, make it up.
Yeah.
Start telling yourself good stories. If you had a dinner party and you got in a huge argument, remember those moments before the arguments,
Right.
remember the moments that went well, because those are the things you can recreate. Recreate what we focus on.
Hmm.
So, what is it that went well? Oh, they ring the doorbell. They didn't just walk in. If that's the only thing that you can think of, it is okay to focus on they respectfully entered my home.
I love it. I love it. It's micro dosing the good, right? It's
Mm.
being able to acknowledge that we don't exist in absolutes. Things aren't 100% totally bad. Things aren't 100% the best they could ever be. That life is really more in the gray area between those things, and that we get to exist there. And perfection doesn't need to be the standard, or that one unpleasant thing doesn't mean that it has to ruin all of the things that have gone on before it. I love analogies because I think they help people to kind of understand the concepts a lot. And so I think about, like, you know, us not celebrating things that go well and us kind of focusing on things that didn't. So, if we drive and you start your car, you don't think anything of it. You go about your business and do what you need to do. And we don't think about all the things that needed to go well for us to get from our house to, say, the coffee shop and back. A lot of things had to go well. The car had to start. We needed to not get in an accident. We needed to have money. We needed to, the coffee place needed to be open. We don't celebrate those things. But if one of those things along the way didn't happen as it, quote unquote should have, oh, it would mess our day up. I didn't get my coffee. It was closed, or there was traffic. The car didn't start. If those things can ruin your day, then surely if the things going well, that are supposed to, or that we tell ourselves are supposed to, we should be celebrating those things. And so I like to try to help people to kind of keep the same, kind of energy or enthusiasm that they would if it didn't go well, that they would pout and sulk about. We should be happy and cheerful about all the stuff that's going the way it should.
Yes. And as should's one of those words I try to
Yeah.
avoid, but when we say should, it is as expected.
Hmm.
You know, I expected it to go like this and it happened. Sometimes I think the world would be a lot better place if we could get rid of all expectations, because it's when those expectations get let down
Hmm.
that all heck is
Yep.
on
Yep.
to the bias. Everything is bad. And it's one little moment.
Hmm.
And we let one moment ruin a whole day. What is it? I don't let your bad day yesterday ruin your day today. You know,
Yeah.
how do we let that go? And how does all of these thought processes tie into imposter syndrome?
The way this stuff is linked to imposter syndrome is that imposter syndrome wants us to kind of go above and beyond to prove that something is good. And that something is usually ourselves. That what we're doing, we're supposed to be doing, that we're qualified to do it, that we are the correct person to do it, that we're also doing a good job. And if we don't take opportunity to take in the moments or events that reinforce that, and we're only looking to where we aren't doing well, where that might not be true, where we've dropped the ball, where we feel like we've underperformed, our sense of self and our perception of self is impacted, and it's impacted in a negative way. And so then we start to compare ourselves. Well, this other person I looked at, did it this way, and I didn't do it that way. All that means is that you guys did something different. Because if you're getting good outcomes and people still liked what you did, even if it wasn't the way that this other person did it, it doesn't matter, right? But we tell ourselves it does. And so we're negatively comparing ourselves to one another. And that's why I think like when people are operating in a space of where they are critiquing themselves frequently or seeing where they didn't meet this expectation that they created that's arbitrary and not really set in stone, then they set themselves up to kind of feel like a fraud, to feel like they don't know what they're doing, that they're not good enough, that it's going to be a matter of time that they're going to be found out to be incapable of all the things that they've already accomplished when the evidence doesn't really support that. And so I try to get people or teach people to pay attention to what the evidence says, that it seems like you didn't have to be perfect for people to really enjoy what you did. Analogies again now this is going back to when you said you made the meal and family was over. Say you made the meal and you forgot that, you had one ingredient that you normally put in and you didn't put it in. And so for you, you know that no one else knows it. And so they're eating the food. They don't know it's missing. They love it. They rave about it. They're wonderful dinner. We love everything you cooked. You still don't feel good about it because you know what? I didn't have paprika. And so I substituted and I tried to work around, and it's not the way I wanted it to be. Evidence suggests that paprika wasn't necessary for your meal to be enjoyed and loved by everybody. And so trying to get people to say like, hey, you've set a standard that doesn't seem to be appropriate for you to get good outcomes. And how can you sit and accept that you do good things, even if imperfection is a part of that process?
And what other people see and what we see are two different things. What somebody else sees of your life, I call that the highlight reels.
Hmm.
The thing that's edited and put forward and produced. It's all those second guessing thoughts and all the self-doubt that's edited out. They don't see that part, and you don't see that in other people, but most of us experience that. It's, "Oh, am I doing this well enough? Did I do a right job?" And, I was guilty of that thing you just talked about. I always put pepperoni in my spaghetti sauce, and I left it out because the person coming over didn't eat pork. And to me, it was a huge difference. You know, to them, it was just great. And it's like, it's that expectation again. It's those little things. And they're not necessary. They might be to your liking, but what is the highlight reel that you're comparing your cut on the floor and discarded parts to? They second guessed. They wondered. They had those same thoughts. You just don't see them.
Yep. I love that. Because what I've learned in my time on Earth is that there are no perfect people. And so, in our definitions of success or what's good and what's, appropriate or proper, we've got to factor in some level of imperfection into that. If we constantly strive for perfection or have a standard of perfection, then we are setting ourselves up to be more disappointed than happy with ourselves and with our performance, because most times we're not going to be perfect. But I'd like to kind of say it in a way of where how far from perfect can your performance deviate before it is no longer good? And I think it's really far, or at least much further than people like to give themselves credit for. Like our grading system, an A is 90 to 100. It's not only 100. And the reason is because all of those other numbers, 91 to 99, matter and are deemed to be of quality. And so why are we not kind of scaling our own performances in that way? Did I do mostly good? Did I accomplish most of what I tried to set out to do? And if so, then we should be giving ourselves a star or an A or a high mark for that.
And we also need to make sure we're measuring against the right test. You take that calculus, statistics, or whatever test, and you take it to your fourth grader and you say, take this test, they're going to fail
Hmm.
because they haven't learned the foundations yet. And we have all learned different foundations and different things. So if you just failed a test, was it one on your level? Or were you given a graduate level test and you're still in junior high? So is the test even a valid one to be measuring that 90% too?
Yes, yes. That is a great point to make, so that w- are we evaluating ourselves against a metric that is appropriate for who we are and where we are in life and what we put out? Which suggests then that the best benchmark or comparison is comparing ourselves to only ourselves, right? So that, like, I guess, like, even a much smaller kind of metric for progress is just, am I better than I was yesterday? And that's not like significantly better, or like, am I completely different? It's just saying, did I learn something yesterday? And what I learned yesterday, am I applying it to my life today? That's a win. That's growth. That's progress. We can celebrate that. That's what we want people to do, not beat yourself up for learning something yesterday and then improving upon it the next day.
Yeah, and it is. Am I better today than I was yesterday? And that is your measuring check.
Mhm.
Not Laura Jane's, not Stevon's, not what is it that you feel? Do you feel you have progressed? And that's what counts, you know? And if you have a day, let's call it the plateau day. Not everybody's tried to lose weight, but you have those moments when your body and everything adjusts and you kind of stay stagnant. That doesn't mean that you're not progressing. So you may feel like you need to just lay in bed for a day because your body needs to recuperate, your mind needs to recuperate. Those are not signs of I'm not successful. Those are signs that you're listening to who you are. You're now becoming better at knowing what you need and acknowledging it and doing it.
Yeah. I like the idea of like being able to reset and reset on a daily basis. And also reset as a way of resting too. That rest is involved in, our continued growth. Uh, I think about it in terms of like baking a cake where once you take it out of the oven, you gotta kinda let it sit and wait. Because if you put frosting on it, it'll melt off the frosting. It's too hot to do anything, and so you just kinda chilling. You're not doing much during that time, but progress is happening, right? The cake is cooling. That's part of the process, and maybe you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix, and you're like, "I'm supposed to be baking this cake, and I need to decorate it." But, yeah, you gotta let this rest happen. You gotta let the cake cool before you get back to it, and you should allow that process to happen so that you can accomplish your goal. So not beating ourselves up for not always doing something or feeling like we are, actively involved or engaged in something. That giving yourself what you need is just as important for you to be able to accomplish things as getting out and actually doing them.
Yeah, it's kinda like doing laundry. I did 10 loads of laundry today, but each of them were an hour, hour apart.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
You can make it sound, like, really strenuous, but you still have a lot of wait time,
Hmm.
you know? And if you think about it, it's kind of goes right back to Stephen Covey's sharpen your saw principle that, you know, those rest moments, you are sharpening your saw. You are becoming more able to keep going. It's like stopping and filling up with gas. That's not time away from your journey. That's feeding your journey. And as we look at those moments of rest as feeding our journey, then they're not a waste of time. My mom would have this saying, she's, "Oh, I'm feeling so lazy today." Go, "Mom, you just need a rest." I mean, she was a doer. She would not stop, but her body would catch up and her brain would say, "I'm being lazy." And I go, "No, Mom, you're resting. You're getting ready for tomorrow's busy day."
Yeah, it's really hard for people who are kind of, like I said, the high responsibility for them to think about downtime as being beneficial. Because in their minds, they focus on the to-do list is continuing to grow if I'm not constantly getting rid of it. And you're not wrong. It is. Also, that will be true forever. It will continue to always grow. And if you're setting the goal being to, I guess, finish everything on your to-do list, you've set yourself up to be disappointed with your performance or with life in general. Because again, you're constantly doing things, you're doing things well, stuff will continue to be added. Rest needs to be on there as well. You need time to sleep. You need time to recover, to gather yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
You know, no matter what health plan you're following, you might be trying to be a carnivore or a vegan or a whatever. Those are your two extremes.
Hmm.
But if you took all the plans in the world of how to be healthy, there's 3 consistencies, nothing else. Nothing else is on them. Rest, movement, and water.
That's simple. That is simple.
Those are your foundation. And if you're not doing those 3 things, you're messing up on 100% of the diets and health plans out there. Those are your foundation, and then build the rest of what feels good to you. But am I resting appropriately? You can tell that just by how you feel. Like, I spent years on huge caffeine because it took me I was a 5-hour energy and a Red Bull person. It took me 4 or 5 of them a day to get through the day,
Mm,
but I was masking not getting enough rest,
yeah.
where I could have been the healthier side and put myself down earlier at night and got up later. But, you have all these to-dos instead of the to-dones.
Yeah. That's so interesting is that we will often find a solution that kind of enables the problem to continue. That the problem was, I need more rest. And the solution is, how do I find a way to keep going without that? And I get that there are different pressures for people. So if it's family or you got kids dependent on you, maybe you don't get to rest in the way that you wanted. But you can prioritize smaller versions of that. Uh, you mean to tell me you don't have 5 minutes that you could take to just sit in silence? I find that hard to believe. You could take 10 minutes here, maybe 10 minutes there. All of that stuff is restorative. And I think that oftentimes, our vision for what something needs to be or how it needs to look is the best case scenario. If we had all of our ducks in a row and everything worked the way we had wanted, sometimes life doesn't, sometimes, most times, I guess I'll say life doesn't actually perform to the way that we've designed it to. But we accommodate and we, shift accordingly. And so, yeah, rest is important and we need to find ways to find solutions that are healthy and sustainable, not just ways to kind of ignore the problem that we're contending with.
I'm really good at ignoring stuff. We set a rule really early in our marriage that you don't bitch about anything that's not done around the house. Whoever it bothers first, take care of it.
Hmm.
I learned really, really early to ignore it.
Yeah.
I don't care if your socks are on the floor or not. I'm ignoring them because I'm not picking them up.
Oh man, like in my head, I'm thinking about like all the early conflict that may have created, but it's a way to work. Like you guys agreed upon a way to operate that would work for, your relationship. And it's what needs to be attended to immediately? And what stuff am I telling myself I need to attend to that I can actually kind of put off for a second?
Right. And it's like, if it bothers you, fix it. Because the only person in the world that you can fix is you. You can't make somebody else do anything. You might be able to do some manipulation, but they're not going to be consistent at it until they choose.
Yep.
So, and the other rule we always had is whatever parent answers you, that's your answer. No asking a second parent.
I like I, I like the rules you come up with because it provides like agency and ownership, right? That,
Yeah.
I can control me. I can't control other people. So then if I am distressed by something, what can I do about it? And if I can't do anything about it, which is a very kind of stoic philosophy way of thinking about things, then I need to not worry or complain because
Mm,
there's nothing I can do. And once it happens, then, the bad thing happened and I'll be done with it.
yeah. I used to tell my youngest son, "Are you sure you're asking the right parent?"
That's a clue. That's a clue. Like maybe think again. Yeah.
You know what my answer is gonna be. If you wanna ask somebody else first, that's okay.
Yeah. Because you get one shot, right? Yeah, yeah.
But
That's really helpful.
if you set boundaries and you honor them, it's easier for everybody.
Mhm.
Here's the boundary. Oh, you didn't stay in it, you know? It just gives you those guardrails where you're gonna get along. Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that because I think people see boundaries as being punishment for other people, and I see them as being opportunities to allow me to show up in the ways that I want to in the world, in relationship with others. So that, I'm telling people, hey, this is what works for me, and so that I can show up and be all the things. And if we can't do this, then I can't be me and all of me that I want to be. And so it's not a punishment to you. It's just saying, let's create a space where we can all kind of show up and be who we need to be in a healthy, protective way.
Well, and boundaries are your non-negotiable.
Yes.
These are things I will not put up with. That doesn't mean someone's not going to do it. That means you now know what you're gonna respond when they do. It
Exactly.
has nothing it's not a gate, it's a response. When somebody crosses this line, this is how I'm going to respond. It doesn't keep anybody from doing it. It just
Yeah.
keeps you answering consistently.
Yeah. It's training people how to be successful with me, I think. Right? Like they're for me and I'm giving you a blueprint to success. And if you choose not to follow that blueprint, then maybe you won't be successful with me. And that's not my fault. That's yours because I wanted you to be successful.
Yeah.
That's why
You
I
know,
gave you the boundaries.
and rules are meant to be broken,
Mhm. Yeah.
but they sure don't raise kids that know what to expect.
Right. I mean, kids will test parents too, right? And so they will test kind of your levels of patience that you thought you were a very patient person until, someone pushes past what you thought you could be patient with. I don't need to pick up that sock. I'm going to wait it out and ignore it until, the pile of socks gets, too high. It's, what's your frustration tolerance? But yeah, I think about kind of the idea of always feeling like you need to intervene on behalf of others is kind of it's the responsibility. Like, I think that's kind of a imposter syndrome thing, like where we are taking on other people's kind of experiences and feel like we have a responsibility to make sure that they are always pleasant. And I think recognizing the reality that sometimes people's behavior will lead to outcomes that aren't good. And sometimes it will lead to outcomes that are good, but we don't get to kind of dictate or control what that will be for other people or
Yeah,
feel ourselves trying to do that.
and we talked about expectations, when you don't. And we also talked a little bit, we always are focusing on those things that we want. If you want to get coffee and all these things go perfectly, you got your coffee, everything's great. One thing doesn't go right and everything, the whole world is now up to crit.
Yeah.
But it comes back to, for many, many years, every time the garbage would get taken out, I would be a bitch because there wasn't a garbage sack in the garbage can. And why did I focus on that there wasn't a garbage sack in the garbage can
Mm.
instead of, I never had to nag, I never had to ask, I never had to anything, the garbage just disappeared,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
one day I decided it's my job to put the garbage sack in. If the garbage sack isn't in, I didn't do my job. And now when I walk in with a handful of garbage to put in the garbage can and there's not a sack, it's my job. It's not Lara Jane turning into a raging lunatic. It's, I will turn around, put the garbage sack in and do it. And we laugh about it.
Hmm.
Find those things that I forgot all the things that went right. And I focused on the one tiny thing that wasn't what I expected. And choose, how do I want to live my life? Do I want to be happy, create harmony at home, or do I want to be a lunatic?
Yeah.
Because it's your response.
Hmm.
It's your response that matters, not what happened.
That's really empowering. I like the idea that there's choice there. You can choose to be, as you said, the lunatic and create chaos at home, or I can choose to put a trash bag in the trash can. Both options are, you have a right to do. One probably will be better than the other, I might say, long term. But like, you have agency. You have a way to choose. Again, we get to control ourselves. And so I think, eh, like you said, like paying attention to what didn't go right versus all the other things that did go well. All the
Right.
times
Like,
you never had to take out the trash.
right. Or I never even had to ask. I mean, I'm on the lucky side on that one, but
Yeah.
it's those tiny little messes we talked about.
Mhm.
Find the good things that caused this to not be perfect. I got my coffee. It was 5 minutes late, but I got my coffee.
Yep.
I was stuck behind a traffic jam, but I got it. Whatever the thing is, when we focus on the what went right and the ta-dans,
I
that's
love
what
it.
brings joy. That's what allows you to sparkle in your adulthood instead of that dim, what so many of us are like as an adults. We're
Yeah.
just robotic.
It's true. It's true. And we get caught up in the mundane of, I guess, everyday life. And like you said, robotic of, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do laundry. Stuff's never ending. but we aren't taking time to kind of, smell the roses, so to speak. We aren't noticing the good around us that's happening just as frequently, if not more, than the stuff that may be unpleasant. And so then, your happiness is directly tied to your ability to notice the good that's occurring in the universe and around you at all times. It's your
You know,
responsibility to notice that.
and if it's a task you hate, hey, we are successful people. Hire it out. Substitute it. You do not have to do it. I remember the times I'd come home from a business trip and come in the house and be stressed because there was a few extra things to do that wouldn't have been there had I been home. And we just hired a maid to come in on the day I came home. You know what? Why have it? Why go through that if you can prevent it?
Hmm.
Come in, clean the house. I don't have to do it. We'll have fun with the kids all weekend anyway. And it's, hire it out or change the frame. It's a happy little mess. I get to do this because I was able to go on a business trip and the kids are still alive. They're still here. They're still, what are the to do the good parts, the dones? Nobody died. Nobody,
Right,
the
right.
house is still standing. We don't look at those.
See, that's that ownership piece that, I think, yeah, I forget how they label it, but it's, kind of the high achievers, or if they didn't do it, then does it really count? And so what I try to, get our friend to think about is, does something need to get done, or do you need to do it? And so speaking to like that idea of, if you can pay someone to get it done, if the more important thing is that it gets done and it doesn't have to be you, get rid of the headache, get rid of the worry, get it off of your to-do list, put it on that person's, and be done with it. Do you need to cut your grass, or do you need to pay a gardener? Do you need to clean your pool, or do you need to get a pool person? If the task just needs to be done and it frees you up and you don't have to do it per se, and you have the resources and ability to get it done, be solution focused. Do the easy thing, get it done, and you don't do it. And like you said, enjoy other parts of your life, time with the family, time with your kids, as opposed to you kind of constantly having to do everything in order for it to be okay.
I love the delegation. It's why take on the stress. You're already successful. It, d- it you don't prove to be more successful just because you could handle everything.
Right.
It's like, where is the quality of life? When did you get to go to dinner with friends? When did you get to have extra dates with your kids or husband or significant other? Uh, when did you just get to go play fetch with the dogs? When do you take those moments that are just pure joy? And if they're taken out by things that are monopolizing your time, it's okay to farm it out.
Right. Right. I I don't know that, like, yeah, we win awards for doing everything. I've not heard of it yet. So I'm assuming that it doesn't exist. And I also don't know that, like, the people who are connected to us, that the value they find in us is the fact that we did 10 loads of laundry. I don't know that that's it.
Yeah. I don't need to do 10 loads of laundry now because
Yeah.
the kids are gone.
That part. Got rid of them.
Thank goodness they're only just living somewhere else. I still get to see them. It's what brings you joy, and when you find those things, you're less of an imposter.
Mhm.
Because I think half of this imposter syndrome is really not shining who you are. When you try to do things that are outside of your norm, you start feeling like you're faking it.
Mhm.
And I remember the times I'm an awful speller. You imagine this. Someone in the corporate world, I'm sitting in a conference room full of people, before COVID, of course. Now you do everything on the phone.
Right.
Taking notes and misspelling 99% it, and okay, not really, probably 10%. You know, and people, like, I had this one CFO that when I was go, "Oh, Laura Jane, you're killing me." It's like Don't worry about it. It will be fixed.
Hmm.
And I can't not worry about it. But when you are confident enough to acknowledge, hey, this is my weakness, I'll have it fixed before it goes out. You now allow everybody else on your team to be okay with where they're weak and to find ways to fix it. Until we know our weaknesses and we know our strengths, we're pretending.
Hmm.
I could have pretended. I could have hid the notes. I could have not done it. But what good is that? You know, when you can be who you are. I don't know, so many interviews I go, if I can't have fun, I don't want the job.
Yeah.
It's got to have an element of fun. And, some people might think I want to just sit around and play all day, but I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And that is being authentic. When you can say, these are my needs. I used to tell my boss, you can count on me from 9 to 5. Outside of that, I'll probably be here, but I will be here in these times. If it's more, great. If it's less, oh well, but that was with prior reasoning.
Hmm.
I didn't have to give an excuse to not show up till 9. I didn't have to give an excuse to leave at 5. That's when you can count on me. Those are when you become transparent and that imposter view goes away. Yeah, you can be there longer. She didn't care if I showed up at 7 and left at 7, but she had my guardrails.
Yeah. I love it because what you're saying now is like that inner bully, we've removed any ammo it can use to hurt us. So when you acknowledge your imperfections and you're self-aware about, where you aren't the strongest and you don't let those areas define who you are, then you can go through life and accomplish stuff and still be good and great and be aligned and connected to the praise and the outcomes that are good that you're getting and not feel like a fraud behind it. And your inner bully can't make you feel as though you didn't deserve the good that you got because you're saying, hey, I know spelling might not be my thing. For me, it might be uh, planning events is not my thing. But again, do I have to do it or does it need to get done? And so, yeah, I might miss some of the details, but like overall, the experience will be good. And I think it'll be okay. And I can acknowledge that. And I don't need to try to be different because the message I'm sending to my brain is that me who I am is okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of imposter syndrome is trying to hide
Yep.
those things that you feel are a flaw.
Hmm.
Like, oh well, these are what they are.
Yeah.
And you don't quit being productive. You don't quit being successful because you had a weakness.
And that's a great reframe because it's what you're saying is that you were successful and you were productive, even though I did have this weakness. How much more empowering and inspiring is that to say, maybe I don't have all the things that I think someone would need to be able to do the stuff that I'm doing, but lo and behold, I'm getting it done.
And we have different strengths for a reason. The accountant and the marketing person have completely different strengths.
Yes.
Does it make one of them good and one of them bad? No, they're both in the role they need to be in. Find your role and shine.
Hmm.
I think this has been beautiful. A lot of fun, a lot of wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing. Stefan, share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and if our friend thinks, oh, I need to talk to this dude, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. I'm Stevon Lewis. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. A bit of a misnomer because I don't work with families or couples anymore. So I, say licensed psychotherapist. I'm based out in Inglewood, California, and I specialize in treating people struggling with imposter syndrome. So most of my clients are like our friend, high responsibility, high achieving, constantly having many people lean on them And my job is to help them stay connected to who they are and the good parts of themselves so that they don't go through life feeling like a fraud or like they're failing. And if you want to find me, my name is pretty unique. Stevon, Stevon. I tell people Steve on, not off. Lewis, and my website is stevonlewis.com. Yeah, and I've created a journal that I've written to help people kind of learn some skills and tools and abilities to be able to work through silencing their own inner bullies.
Yes, and that's how I found you, was through the name of your book, which is Silencing Your Inner Bully. So I love it. Thank you so much for joining. So if I only had chance for one thing I could try this week, what should I try?
If you have only one thing that you can try this week, I would say tell yourself the rest of the story, and maybe asking yourself, and then what happened? So if you focused on all the things that didn't go well, tell yourself, and then what happened? Because that's really important. If you were in a traffic jam and you were late to work, and then what happened? Well, I got to the meeting. I was a little late. Nobody cared. We sealed the deal. I got a new client for the firm, and we moved forward. The traffic jam does not matter. You being tardy did not matter. A good thing still happened. So if you can take time to, as you're focusing on the negative, to say, well, what's the rest of the story, so that you can start to train your brain to notice that the story doesn't stop at the unpleasant thing happening.
I agree. That is so true. Unpleasant things are going to happen, but we keep going. So find that joy and keep on going. Thank you so much for joining us today. Friend, I am not a licensed medical or mental professional, just here for entertainment. Please follow the advice of your doctors and therapists.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.